Today we're doing lesson 2.2, which is solving one-step equations. Okay, we are asked to solve this equation for g. Whenever you would like to get the g as your solution, or any variable as your solution, you want to look on the side with the variable and start with the minus 25. We want to get the variable alone, so we need to cancel the minus 25. In order to cancel something, we always do the opposite operation or sign. So this is minus 25. We're going to add 25. And whatever we do to one side, we do to the other side. So I'm going to add 25 here. That'll cancel out the minus 25 so that we have g by itself. And then g would equal 113 plus 25, which is 138. Same idea here. You have the variable j minus 87 equals negative 3. You want to cancel out the minus 87, so I'm going to add 87 to both sides. And that will cancel out the minus 87 on the side with the j, so that we have only j left over. And then on the other side, where the equals negative 3 part is, we have negative 3 plus 87. When you have a negative and a positive and you're adding, you end up subtracting and taking the higher values. So 87 minus 3 is 84. 87 is positive, so my answer is going to be positive 84. Here we have 27 plus k equals 30. To get k by itself, we look at the sign of the 27, which is positive, okay, and we are going to subtract, since it's positive. If it was negative 27, we would add, but we are subtracting 27 since the 27 is positive. We are not subtracting 27 because it's plus, because the plus sign does not apply to the 27. The plus sign applies to the k. But we do still need to subtract 27, because 27 minus 27 will cancel that out to be 0. So we don't need to write 0. And we're left with k equals, and we need to also do minus 27 on the other side. And we have k equals 3. The next one, we have p plus 16. So on the side with the 16 and the p, we want to cancel out the 16. This plus 16 does apply, so we can subtract because it's plus. We're also going to subtract on the other side. And we have negative 12 minus 16. When we have negative and we're subtracting is the same thing as adding a negative. So it ends up being negative 12 plus negative 16. When we're adding and we have the same symbol, we can add them together and put the negative sign. So we have negative 28. This equation is a special equation because it has a variable next to a fraction. So the fraction is the coefficient. The fraction being the coefficient, we still need to cancel out the fraction. So if we want to cancel out the fraction, we want to make the number now to be 1. Okay, so to make 3/5 1, and we talked about this with the properties, you would need to multiply by its reciprocal. So I'm going to do that on both sides. I'm multiplying by 5/3. What that does is make it now 1k. Since we don't usually write a 1 in front of the variable because it's assumed, we just now have k. So k equals, and we're going to do 6 times 5/3, so 6 over 1 times 5/3. We can just multiply across 30 and get 30 over 3, or we can cross simplify and get 10 over 1. okay? And we don't need to write over 1, so we're just going to write 10. This one again has a variable next to a fraction, so we need to cancel out the 2/3. To do that, we multiply by the reciprocal, and we do that on both sides. So we end up getting b by itself, or with a 1 in front of it, and then we have 3/2 times negative 1/4. So I'm going to rewrite that down here. And we're going to just end up multiplying the numerators, multiplying the denominators, and we get negative 3/8. Since we can't do any simplifying with that, we leave it as negative 3/8. The last problem here is a word problem. We want to come up with an equation, and then we want to solve. So Allison is making a stained glass window. Her pattern requires that 1/5, that's spelled wrong, 1/5 of the glass should be blue. She has 228 or 288 square inches of blue glass. So if she intends to use all of her blue glass, how much glass will she need for the entire project? So if we go back, she needs to have 1/5 of the glass be blue. So if she has 288 square inches of blue glass, we don't know how much she needs, but we know that it needs to be 1/5 of the total glass. So we're going to do 1/5 times G, because it's 1/5 of the total glass, which we don't know, so we put that as G. And that is going to equal our total amount that we do have, 288. So we would need to multiply by the reciprocal. Since we have a fraction next to the variable, we're going to do that on both sides. 5 is the same thing as 5/1, and we end up with 288 times 5, which gives us G equals 1,440. So that would be how much she would need for the entire project. And that concludes Lesson 2-1.